When my manager laughed, "You don't need training, just watch someone smart," after I asked for access to a new software tutorial, I followed her every click for a week and documented all 143 mistakes she made in a single dashboard. Then I printed it out and left it on her chair with a sticky note that said, "Watched closely." I work in data reporting for a large healthcare provider in St. Louis, Missouri. Our team handles performance dashboards, data compliance reports, and operational metrics that are shared across the company, from the call center to the C-suite. My official title is Operations Analyst too, but most days it feels like I'm just a glorified Excel janitor. I've always been the type to ask questions, especially when I don't know something. A few months ago, we switched over to a new data platform, Helix Metrics, which was supposed to be a major upgrade from our clunky old software. Everyone on our team needed to start using Helix for our reporting tasks, and naturally, there was a learning curve. I did the reasonable thing. I asked for access to the official tutorial modules. They had online guides, walkthroughs, and even a certification track. It wasn't just helpful, it was necessary. The software was packed with new features, and without the proper guidance, I knew people would mess up badly. That's when my manager, Dana, laughed. Literally. I still remember her leaning back in her chair, sipping her lukewarm Starbucks, and saying, "You don't need training. Just watch someone smart." She even smirked when she said it, like it was funny, like I was being needy or stupid for wanting to learn the right way. This wasn't the first time Dana acted like she knew everything. She was the type of manager who got promoted for being confident, not competent. Dana liked to talk fast, click faster, and cover up her mistakes with attitude. I didn't say anything in that moment. I just nodded and walked back to my desk. But something in me snapped. Not in a dramatic way, not loud. More like a quiet flip of a switch. If she wanted me to watch someone smart, I would. I would watch her. And I'd do it better than she ever expected. For the next 7 workdays, I watched Dana. Every time she shared her screen in a meeting, I recorded it. I saved the Zoom files and screen captures, and whenever she dropped her guard, I leaned in. I even adjusted my lunch hour so I could hover in the shared workspace and hear her complain about this stupid software while struggling to do basic tasks. I kept a little Google sheet at first. It started with a few entries, mislabeling columns, using the wrong filter, pulling data from the wrong month, basic stuff. But then it ballooned, because Dana was really bad at Helix metrics. She wasn't just sloppy, she was dangerous. There were reports she sent to leadership that had incorrect totals, misrepresented KPIs, and some that flat out didn't make sense. I documented it all. Every mistake, every workaround, every time she said, "This doesn't matter," and skipped over a required field. I gave each entry a category: data misalignment, inaccurate time frames, formula errors, unauthorized shortcuts, ignoring system flags. I even gave her a personal error code for fun. DMAX, Dana's maximum screw-ups. By the end of the second week, my list had 143 entries. Some people might say I had too much time on my hands, but this was beyond personal. She made me feel stupid for wanting to learn. She mocked my professional standards. And she was compromising data that directly affected departments making critical decisions, including patient services. So I built a dashboard, a real one, using Helix metrics. I called it the Live Error Tracker Manager Edition. It was clean, simple, and very damning. I color-coded each error by severity. I added a heat map by day and time to show when she was most reckless. I even included a trend line showing that the longer she used Helix, the worse her mistakes got. Then I exported the whole thing to PDF, made sure it was professionally formatted, and printed out all 14 pages in full color. I stapled the pages neatly, slid them into a clear binder, and left it on her office chair before I went home on Friday. On the cover, I stuck a single yellow post-it note that said, "Watched closely." On Monday morning, Dana didn't say a word to me. Not at first. But by 10:13 a.m., she walked by my desk. Her jaw was tight. Her face was pale. She didn't ask who did it. She knew. She had a meeting with HR at 11 o'clock. I know because I saw the Outlook notification pop up on her screen during our stand-up call. She tried to act normal, but her eyes kept darting around. She was sweating. I didn't need to say a word. She knew what she had done, and what I had caught. Later that day, I got an email from Cynthia, our HR coordinator, asking if I'd be open to providing context for the data I'd presented. I replied, "Of course. I'll bring my documentation and video evidence. I've got a lot more to say. This isn't over yet." I walked into HR the next morning with a flash drive in my pocket and a hard copy of my documentation in a folder. Cynthia was already waiting, and I could tell from the second she looked at me that she'd seen the binder. Probably read it cover to cover. She wasn't alone. Rick, the director of operations, was in the room too. I'd only met him once during a company town hall. He wasn't the kind of guy who sat in on every HR meeting. That meant something big was happening. Cynthia asked if I was comfortable walking through my findings. I said yes. I plugged in my flash drive and opened up the folder on the screen. The room went silent as I scrolled through the first few pages. I explained the color coding, the timestamps, the system error logs, everything. Rick leaned forward. He wasn't bored. He was locked in. By the time I finished, the room felt heavier. Cynthia cleared her throat. And these findings were based on your observations alone? I nodded. Every entry is backed by either a saved Zoom recording or a screen cap. All timestamps are listed. Nothing was guessed. Rick tapped the table with his pen. How long did it take you to build this? About a week and a half, I said. I worked after hours. And I used Helix metrics correctly. That last part was a jab. Rick caught it. His mouth twitched like he was fighting a smirk. Did you bring this to Dana directly? Cynthia asked. I shook my head. She laughed when I asked for training. I decided I'd let the data speak instead. They thanked me and said they'd follow up soon. The rest of the week was chaos. Dana didn't show up to our team calls. She stopped answering emails. We got vague messages from upper management saying she was out on leave, but no one believed it. Rumors spread fast. Someone said Dana was being audited. Another claimed she tried to blame a contractor. One guy swore he heard her screaming in the parking garage on her phone. Meanwhile, I was still doing my job, quietly, carefully, and with zero mistakes. Then, 2 days later, something I didn't expect happened. I got called into another meeting. This time it was just me and Carmen, the VP of Data Compliance. She didn't waste time. I want you to be honest with me, she said. Did Dana ever ask you to fix her reports? I blinked. No. Why? She's saying you were the one submitting the faulty dashboards under her credentials. That she let you use her login because yours wasn't working. She says you were training on her behalf. I sat there for a second, stunned. That's a lie. She also says the binder was retaliation because she wrote you up for insubordination 2 weeks ago. That part made me angry. She never wrote me up. She mocked me in front of the team for asking to be trained. I can show you the Slack messages. Carmen didn't flinch. Please do. We've got IT pulling login data and access logs from Helix now. If what you're saying is true, it'll clear you. If not, she didn't finish the sentence. But I knew what she meant. I spent the next 36 hours gathering every Slack message, email, and screen recording I had. I compiled everything in a new folder and added commentary. I even pulled server metadata from Helix reports I'd submitted, showing my own login and timestamps. I made sure the trail was clear, organized, and bulletproof. When I turned it in, I added a short note. I didn't need to lie because I didn't screw up. I just watched the person who did and took notes. It felt cold, but I meant every word. 2 more weeks passed. Dana still hadn't returned. Then one morning I logged in and saw a calendar invite from Rick titled, Team Structure Changes Urgent. Everyone on our team was on it. When the call started, Rick was already there. He didn't wait long. I'm announcing that Dana will not be returning. She's resigned effective immediately. A few people gasped. One girl actually clapped. Rick didn't acknowledge it. She violated several data policies, misrepresented access permissions, and falsified information during an internal review. These are serious matters that leadership has dealt with accordingly. That's all I'll say on that. Then he looked straight into the camera. We're also promoting someone internally to take over Dana's role. They've shown initiative, skill, and a strong sense of responsibility. He paused, and then said my name. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just nodded. Because I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. Sure, Dana was gone. But something about the way she tried to twist the story stuck with me. She'd gone from mocking me to blaming me. That shift meant something deeper was going on. And I was starting to wonder what else she'd been hiding. The promotion didn't feel real at first. For the first few days, I kept waiting for someone to walk into my office and tell me there'd been a mistake. But no one did. Instead, Rick stopped by and handed me a company laptop and badge upgrade. Carmen forwarded me a congratulatory email. Even Cynthia from HR sent over leadership training links. I didn't brag. I didn't tell my family. I didn't change my LinkedIn. I just kept my head down and worked. because in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that Dana wasn't done with me. And I was right. It started with a voicemail, blocked number, static in the background, and her voice. "You think you're clean? You're not. You're just better at hiding it." But I'm not done. She hung up. I sat at my desk staring at the phone for a long time. It was her. I hadn't spoken to her since before she disappeared. And now she was threatening me like I was the one with something to hide. The message was short, but something about it scared me. 2 days later, IT called me. "Hey, we need to talk," said Eli, our system security guy. "There's been some strange activity tied to your old department's shared drives." I met him in the data center. Eli had a monitor pulled up with a timeline on it. Someone tried to remote access 3 folders from an external IP late at night. 2 of the files had been archived under Dana's old credentials, but one was still active. "What was in it?" I asked. He clicked it open. It was a folder marked confidential, depth targets. Inside were subfolders, each one named after someone on the team. Mine was there too. Inside, screenshots, old emails, performance reviews, everything. But not mine, hers. Dana had created personal shadow files on each of us. Notes she took, comments she made, weird speculation. Stuff like, "My name asks too many questions. Watch for loyalty. Maya has a side gig. Might be a compliance risk. Connor browses job boards during lunch." Most of it was paranoid, messy, and completely inappropriate. Why would she do this? I asked quietly. Eli looked uneasy. "I don't know. But it gets worse." He pulled up another folder. Quota shift. Inside were spreadsheets showing report data that had been tampered with before I ever started tracking her mistakes. The files showed a pattern. Dana had been falsifying department performance data to make her team look like it was exceeding goals. She'd been padding metrics, erasing late submissions, and hiding negative trends. That's why she didn't want any of us digging too deep into Helix metrics. That's why she laughed at my training request. It wasn't about ego. She was hiding fraud. I brought the files straight to Carmen and Rick. Rick looked genuinely stunned. "How long was this going on?" "At least 6 months," I said. "Maybe longer." Carmen was furious. "This is a major compliance issue. We have reports that were used in quarterly reviews based on these numbers." "She created files on team members too," I added. "Personal ones." Rick leaned back in his chair. This could have become a lawsuit. Or worse, a federal audit. They went quiet. I could tell they were thinking the same thing I was. We didn't just fire someone who made mistakes. We fired someone who was actively covering up fraud, then tried to pin it on me when it fell apart. Later that day, Carmen called me again. "I don't want to alarm you, but we've learned Dana accessed her old company laptop through a remote shell. We didn't revoke her remote credentials fast enough." "She's still in the system?" "She was. As of today, we've locked everything down. But we're advising everyone to monitor their personal emails and accounts just in case." I wasn't just mad now. I was done playing defense. That night, I made a call. Not to HR. Not to legal. To Luis. Luis used to work in the same building. He was in IT security before he moved to the private sector. Now he runs a consulting firm that does internal audits for large companies. And he owes me a favor. I told him everything, off the record. The falsified data, the fake reports, the personal folders, the remote access. He whistled. "She's not just unethical. She's desperate." "What would you do?" I asked. "Run a full audit on her previous 2 years. Look at every promotion she got. Every raise. Any bonus tied to performance. If she lied on those metrics, she committed financial fraud against the company. That's not just a firing offense. That's a felony." I brought that advice to Rick. He didn't hesitate. The next morning, an emergency audit team was assigned. They started digging through Dana's work history, starting from the year she got promoted into management. The deeper they went, the worse it got. False reports. Manipulated feedback scores. Deleted complaint emails from direct reports. Even one unsigned reference letter she had apparently written about herself using a fake email address. This wasn't just a bad manager. This was a long con. But here's where it turned. One of the folders she accessed remotely had logs tied to her personal device. She thought she was anonymous, but the system flagged the device ID, linked to a laptop Dana had purchased using her company reimbursement card. So now not only had she accessed the system illegally, she did it from a device the company technically still owned. Carmen's team called the police. Not HR. Not legal. The actual police. I don't know yet what charges they'll bring. But I know this. Dana isn't going to talk her way out of this one. And I haven't even told you the worst part yet. Because in one of her personal folders, she had a private document titled Succession Plan. My name was listed, under Replace if Problematic. And beside it, one word: Barry. The word Barry stuck in my head like a nail. It made everything clear. Dana hadn't just seen me as some analyst asking too many questions. She saw me as a threat. From the moment I asked for training, I had accidentally pulled a loose thread that unraveled everything she spent years covering up. This wasn't just workplace revenge anymore. This was personal. For her. And now for me. The police investigation moved fast once the digital trail was confirmed. Dana had used her company laptop to access restricted files multiple times after being locked out. Between the fraudulent reports, falsified performance data, and the bonus money she received based on manipulated metrics, they had enough to charge her with corporate fraud and unauthorized access to protected systems. They arrested her at home. The story hit the local news. Former healthcare manager faces felony charges over data fraud scheme. And within a day, everyone at the company knew. People who had once kissed up to her started whispering behind her back. Friends distanced themselves. Former coworkers untagged her on LinkedIn. But what really hit home was what happened to her family. One of her old team members, Vanessa, used to be close with Dana. She told me privately what happened next. Dana's husband, Eric, left her the week after the arrest. He filed for divorce immediately, moved out with their 14-year-old son, and refused to let her contact him. He had no idea what Dana had been doing. They'd already been rocky for a while, but now the trust was gone for good. Her son blocked her on everything. Vanessa told me Dana was seen sobbing in the courthouse hallway after one of her early hearings, clutching her phone, begging her lawyer to help her reach out to her kid. No one helped. Internally, the company began rebuilding. Rick personally asked me to help lead the cleanup effort for all affected reports. I worked long hours verifying data, reformatting dashboards, and helping teams rebuild what Dana had broken. We ended up replacing or retracting 32 company reports she had touched in her final year. More than once, I had to sit in a boardroom with executives and say out loud, "That number was fabricated." I should have felt proud. But if I'm honest, I mostly felt tired. Exposing Dana didn't feel like a win. It felt like surviving something I never asked to be part of. Months passed. Dana pleaded guilty to avoid trial. Her lawyer negotiated a deal: 18 months probation, a 5-figure fine, and a permanent ban from working in data or healthcare systems. But the criminal record? That stays. She now works the night shift at a shipping warehouse outside of St. Charles, Missouri. I know this because Vanessa saw her car in the lot. She's not listed under her real name anymore. Probably changed it. Not legally, but online. I heard her mental health collapsed after the divorce. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks. She told someone, probably the wrong person, that she'd lost everything over one spreadsheet. That's not true. She lost everything because she lied for years, bullied the wrong person, and got caught. The spreadsheet was just a mirror. As for me, I stayed. I got promoted again. I now lead a compliance task force. Carmen still calls me her quiet pit bull, and Rick asks me to sit in on interviews when hiring new managers. We now train every new hire, mandatory, structured, and logged. And we use Helix metrics properly. Every time I open the software, I remember how it started, with a laugh. With someone in power mocking a person trying to do the right thing. So now, whenever I train someone new, I tell them this: never feel stupid for asking to learn. Only fools are scared of knowledge. Then I show them the basics. Slowly, properly. And I keep a sticky note on my monitor that says, "Watched closely." Just to remind myself, I'll always be watching.